July 26th is Gaucher's Awareness Day. Joining me in studio is Kelly Duplessis, who is the chairperson and founder of the Rare Disease Society of South Africa. Thank you for joining us in studio.
Thank you for having us.
Well, why don't you first start off by telling me what exactly Gaucher's is?
Gaucher's disease is a lysosomal storage disease, which is a group of about 50 conditions. Gaucher's has 3 different types, and basically what it is an enzyme deficiency in the body, which results in products that would normally be excreted by the body being stored in places like the liver, the spleen, your bone marrow, etc.
Mm-hmm. So can you give me an example of that in layman's terms, what that would mean?
So in terms of lysosomal storage, basically it is when it is a cell in the body, and what happens is that enzyme would generally start waste production, and it's a catalyst for waste production in the cell. As it's absent, it results in an accumulation of byproducts that generally wouldn't be there, and that is what manifests the disease.
Okay, so for someone who didn't have Gaucher's disease, their body would be able to get rid of those things regularly.
Precisely.
All right. Now, what made you want to get involved with rare diseases here in South Africa?
My son was actually born with a sort of sister condition to Gaucher's, and that is what made me start this foundation and get involved with rare diseases in general. And it's been one of those paid forward kind of contributions that's turned into a lifelong activity, but we're very grateful to be able to do this work.
Now, Kelly, how rare is this condition?
So typically Gaucher's affects 1 in 100,000 people.
Wow.
So it is relatively rare, but it is, being a genetic condition, it has a predisposition to be more popular or more common in certain population groups. So for instance, the Ashkenazi Jewish sector has, it is quite common in there, I mean occurring up to 1 in 1,000 people. And then in other places it'll be 1 in 10,000 and others 1 in 100,000. So it's very difficult to say on such a broad term, but the general prevalence is 1 in 100,000 people.
Do they know why it's more concentrated in certain groups of people?
Yes, back in the days, many years ago when there were such small tribes, if you want to call it, small population sectors, that obviously being a genetic disorder, so you'll have, it carries on from generation to generation.
Right.
And because obviously the tribes were so small, there was, I don't want to call it inbreeding, but there was a lot of, obviously, a smaller community to increase the population group. So
intermingling.
Yeah, that would be a good word. Yeah, a lot of intermingling back then. So it's more common in those sort of areas.
Right. Now, how old was your son when he was diagnosed?
My son was diagnosed at 11 months.
Wow.
So, but his condition's slightly different to Jackie's, and it really manifests very, very early in life. Whereas with Gaucher's, they go through their first 2 or 3 years before some of them start experiencing, not in all cases. There is a neuropathic form of Gaucher's as well, which is more common in earlier stages of development. But so Gaucher's is early childhood, whereas my son's conditions, it's as a baby, an infant.
What was it like getting treatment for your son?
Oh, life-changing. I still remember looking at the first drops of liquid that ran into his veins, thinking, geez, this is what it is. It looks like water. And you just think that so many things have, so much funding and stuff has gone into actually creating that drug, and such a fight to get treatment approved and to get it available here in South Africa. It really, really, really is life-changing. And I think for any parent that's faced in that decision, out of the 7,000 conditions that are rare, only 5% have treatment. So that's 350 odd treatments available for over 7,000 conditions. So I think to hear that you have a rare condition and then to find out that it's one that has a treatment available and you are able to access that treatment is, it's really the odds working in your favor.
Well, when you talk about the fight to get treatment, what do you mean?
Well, this treatment's not cheap. It's very, very expensive. Biological drugs are always generally very expensive. And, obviously it's a very small population group, so it's not like something like asthma where you would have hundreds and thousands of patients. You limit it to maybe 1,000 patients, 10,000 patients worldwide, which according to the population group is not huge. So they don't have a huge patient base to recoup their research and development costs. And so it's not always a given. It's not like you go into the pharmacy and just get it. There's very, very specific logistical requirements in order to get your drugs. And also fights with the medical aids. We're very lucky in South Africa that we have got Gaucher's and Pompe and Fabry, MPS 1 and 2. They're approved in South Africa, and those kids are getting treatment. But many places around the world, Gaucher is still not treated.
Do you think rare diseases get enough attention in South Africa?
Absolutely not. Not for, I think there's a big parent-driven or a patient-driven community in South Africa that does a lot of the awareness raising, but that's a result of fundraising that's required generally most of the time. When you hear about a rare condition, it's a parent really pushing through trying to get treatment for their child. Unfortunately though, rare diseases being what they are, there is a major problem with underdiagnosis, and that's something that will take a long time to rectify. It's not a quick fix.
Kelly, what do you hope people can take away from this about rare disease in South Africa?
I think for me, it's just about being aware of the plight of many other people. I mean, looking at Jackie looks fairly normal. You wouldn't know that it's actually been a battle for her to get to the age that she is, and it's not always easy for her. I think that there's a very real problem in feeling stigmatized in this community, where patients feel completely isolated and they feel as though nobody understands them. And I think just for the general population to have an understanding of what it is that is out there, and that people that look relatively healthy may not actually be, and they really are sometimes fighting very difficult battles, and just to have an understanding. As a boss, as a friend, as a companion, you know, as a school teacher of a child that's sick, to just have an understanding and to really try get to know what it is that that patient's going through, and, you know, not sympathize. I don't think these patients generally are very strong and courageous, and they don't want pity, but I think a little bit of empathy would help. You know, it goes a long way to making them feel part of the community. So that's my big wish. It's for everyone to feel loved.
You mentioned something there about Jackie looking fairly normal and being able to get to the age that she is with the treatment that she's on. What would happen to Gaucher's patient if they didn't receive treatment?
Well, it's a life-limiting disease, so their lifespan would be reduced if she wasn't on treatment. But I think more than that is the quality of life would be very diminished. She would be in a hell of a lot of pain. She wouldn't be able to move around, and she wouldn't be, you know, I mean, her spleen, she might have been at risk of having her spleen removed. Your platelets are very low. You've got blood, you know, you're anemic, that sort of stuff. I mean, her quality of life really wouldn't be what it is today. So, like I said, this treatment's not a cure. It doesn't take the problem away, but it really gives you a fairly good shot at a decent quality of life.
Okay, Kelly, for anyone who wants to find more information on rare diseases in South Africa, how can they do that?
They can visit our website, www.rarediseases.co.za. Alternatively, we have a very active Facebook page, Rare Diseases South Africa. I think we've got over 16,000 followers on Facebook. And also they can pop us an email at info@rarediseases.co.za.